I mean, it goes all the way back to when I was a kid, but I grew up pretty poor. My dad was basically a pastor, and so you work at a church, you don't make a lot of money, and I always felt like I didn't have enough, and I realized that entrepreneurship was the key to unlocking my financial freedom. So as a kid, I would sell my toys at garage sales for a profit, and then when I was in high school, I realized that musicians, if you're a good musician, you can make money. And so I started a band and I fell in love with marketing the band.
Welcome to the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host, and you're welcome to the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. Today, I have an incredible guest, and I'm very excited to get to talk to him, learn from him, and connect with him. But before I introduce him to you, though, I just want to give a big shout out to all of you who have been leaving comments, reviews, and likes on all the major podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, and to those who have been watching on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. You are the reason why we do what we do, and I want to thank you for engaging and watching and listening. And I want to ask you for a favor. I want to ask you that if you get something out of this interview, if you get some type of value, some type of insight, a skill, new information, or the inspiration to go out and take action and make some progress towards your goals, I want to ask you to please share this episode with 10 people. Share the link on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, WhatsApp, wherever. Share this episode with 10 friends. Since this is how we grow, this is how we're able to share our message and motivate, inspire, and bless other entrepreneurs out there to change their lives. And today I have Brian Dixon. He is a husband, father, entrepreneur. He's on a mission to help authors, speakers, and aspiring messengers, entrepreneurs who have a message to share, to create a sustainable business through navigating tech overwhelm, learning to market with confidence, and making money authentically. So I'm excited to talk about that. Brian, thank you very much for being here, and you are welcome, man.
Alex, thank you for having me. I love your mission and your passion. I think it's so important that we encourage other men to be gentlemen. I love that branding, and I'm just excited to be here with you.
Thanks. I'm excited to get to talk. And yeah, there is a passion. I don't know how to explain it, but some people are motivated. They're being pulled by something, right? Like they want something and they're being pulled by something. Tony Robbins talks about this concept. And then other people are motivated by something that they're being pushed by, right? Like by fear. I don't have any of those two. And I sometimes feel like I'm missing out because I don't have any of those two. Like I have something from within, right? Which passion, purpose, I don't know how you would call it, but yeah, that's how I explain it. But anyway, man, the first thing that I do with my guest is I tell them to walk us through their entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less.
Amazing. I love it. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I mean, it goes all the way back to when I was a kid, but I grew up pretty poor. My dad was basically a pastor, and so you work at a church, you don't make a lot of money. And I always felt like I didn't have enough. And I realized that entrepreneurship was the key to unlocking my financial freedom. So as a kid, I would sell my toys at garage sales for a profit. And then when I was in high school, I realized that musicians, if you're a good musician, you can make money. And so I started a band and I fell in love with marketing the band. And then when the band kind of broke up, I thought, well, what can I really do? And I realized I loved helping kids and students. I taught guitar lessons. And so I became a teacher, but as a teacher, I was an education entrepreneur, an edupreneur, where I would create curriculum, create resources, and start selling it online. My first successful product was an internet safety DVD for parents to keep their kids safe on the internet. And it really scaled from there. I really got into online courses. I think online courses is a very powerful way to communicate a message and to also make an income. And now what I do is I help people mostly with their webinars, launching a webinar, a live training that helps you convert viewers into customers by offering your courses, your products, and your programs through a live webinar. And that's what I do now.
Nice. So Man, so you've been around for a while then,
For a
right?
while, nine years full-time online. Yep.
Yeah, since back in the time when you like the courses that you sold came in DVDs.
Oh yeah, no, that was OG. Yeah, that was like 2003. So yeah, that's like 19 years ago was my first online product. Yeah.
That's really cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was also entrepreneurial, when I was young, right? So
Yep.
I'm from Mexico and I used to sell Mexican chips, candy, and soda in the US, right?
Love it.
And and at 13, 14, started selling like Chinese products like virtual reality glasses, smart watches, and stuff like that. I
Amazing.
didn't know about Amazon because if I had known about Amazon and e-commerce and all of that, it would have been a different story, I believe.
That's
But
right.
but yeah. So man, let's see. So start 2003, right? You
Yeah.
you built this internet safety DVD for parents so that they can keep
Mhm.
their children safe. So how
Yep.
did that go? Like walk me through that story, through that journey.
Yeah, it was a personal story, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a personal story. I believe that your mess is your message. And there's something that knocked you down, but didn't knock you out. And you learned to get yourself up off the ground. And because you had to muster up the skills and the resources in order to pick yourself off the ground, that is now a gift to be shared with other people. So for me, we were young married, visiting family on the East Coast. We were living in California. We were visiting family on the East Coast for Christmas, and they had my 11-year-old cousin had a brand new room in the basement and a brand new computer, and the whole family was excited for Christmas because he had this brand new computer. But me, as an educator, as a teacher, I had a red flag. I had a warning sign going off in my mind because I know unmonitored internet access for kids, especially young boys, not a good idea.
Yeah.
And so as the family went back to have Christmas dinner and have a great time together, I snuck about downstairs. I clicked one button on his computer, the history button. And what I saw shocked me. It was just a list of pornographic websites as an 11-year-old, right? 11-year-old stuck in pornography, which for my family is that's not the kind of kids we want to raise. And so it was a big challenge for our family. And I remember a couple of days later, my wife and I got back on the plane to go back to San Diego, and I was just heartbroken. So I thought, if I'm a teacher and I can't even keep my family safe, what am I doing with these students that I'm teaching every day in the classroom? And so I started looking for resources. I didn't find any resources that I could just simply mail to my family to say, here's how to keep your kids safe on the internet.
So you
And so I
created
decided,
them.
say again?
So you created them.
So we created it. So as young school teachers, instead of taking spring break to go to LA or spend spring break at the beach in San Diego, we decided to stay in a classroom. My wife and I were both teachers. We spent the whole week in a classroom and we filmed our first product, which was the internet and your kids. I didn't know how to make a DVD, but I learned about print on demand. And so we used Amazon's system, a print on demand system, loaded it up there. I ordered 3 copies for myself for my classroom library, and that was it. I wasn't even really planning on selling it. I thought maybe some people would buy it, but about 60 days later, I got an alert on my phone from my bank that there was an $800 charge. And I freaked out from Amazon, and I thought I ordered something wrong or I made some mistake. And as I logged in to my bank account, I realized it wasn't a charge; it was a credit, because we had sold $800 of value of these DVDs in less than 2 months with no marketing at all. And I went, wait a second, I think I'm on to something here. So we went on to sell thousands of those DVDs, impacted thousands and thousands of kids. And that's what really got me started in entrepreneurship online.
Damn, that's really cool. Yeah. So you solved a really big problem because, man, pornography, especially in such a young
age. Yeah. That's the challenge. Yeah. It affects your brain development. I have a doctorate in educational technology. And if you look at the metacognition and the pedagogy, right, your brain development, the videos you watch, the photos you see, even the language you hear as a young child, as your brain is developing, really changes your perception on reality. And so pornography, I just believe is pretty damaging, definitely really damaging for a young adolescent. And so it was really impactful for me to be part of that process and to help a lot of families find freedom.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was definitely very hurtful. Yeah, it hurt me.
Yeah.
Right. Because I had a BlackBerry, I remember.
Yeah.
And, that was where I used to go. Like those sites
That's right.
were where I used to go. And I grew up with a lot of insecurities and
Yeah.
not feeling good enough. Right. Of course,
That's right.
you're not going to feel good enough if you're seeing like this, all of that stuff that you see on, on pornography, man. So,
That's
so yeah.
right.
So props to you, right, for helping these young children, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, okay, awesome. So how much time were you able to like really make this scale and really grow this business, this online info product, and impact so many people? How much
That's
time did
right.
that take?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think this is part of we all have this as an entrepreneur when we saw the opportunity and we decided not to take the jump. And even though I feel like I'm a pretty risk-friendly person, like I really like taking risk. When I did the math on how many DVDs we were selling versus what I was making as a teacher, I didn't take the jump. I mean, I feel kind of ashamed to say that, but it's true. I sort of looked at it and I said, you know what? I think this is just a side thing. And I think that happens to a lot of us where we take something that we're passionate about and we put it to the weekend, or we put it to at night, or we put it to when we're going to get to it, right? When we're going to get around to it. And so it took me about a year or so to finally say, you know what? I'm going to burn the boats. I'm going to go all in. So I quit my teaching job to become a full-time speaker that I was going to talk about internet safety, and I was going to talk about the future of education and how I can help people. By that time, I was also working on a degree. So I graduated with a doctoral degree in educational technology. So I thought being a speaker was sort of the key. And then through that process, I mean, long story short is I got a job opportunity to go start a charter school, which was a dream of mine. I as a teacher, I was always getting in trouble because I'm an entrepreneur. So I would come up with new ideas. I would change the curriculum. I would move the classroom around and my principal would get mad at me. And I think entrepreneurs are really terrible employees, right? Because we're always like wanting to change the game. So I had this really cool opportunity to leave San Diego. My wife and I were now pregnant with our first kiddo. We left San Diego. We moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which Louisiana is like 49th in the nation in terms of their educational quality. And I started a school from the ground up called the Mentorship Academy. I was, as an entrepreneur, launched a school, which literally, I mean, if there's one thing on my tombstone, it's he founded the Mentorship Academy, and it's helped 600 kids a year for the last 11 years get into college and kind of resetting their family tree and breaking some chains of poverty and of lack of education. And through that process of learning how to network, how to pitch people, how to raise money. We secured a $3 million building. Like the whole process of launching the school, that for me was it. Like I knew I was an entrepreneur. So I got the school to year 5, and then I left going into year 5, and I wanted to start my next thing. So I pivoted from education to education, entrepreneurship, helping people with their message and helping them with their courses and launch their own thing, whatever it is. I've helped people launch nonprofits, grow their mission organizations, help people with their books, their courses, build really big brands over the last 9 years now.
Cool. So you left after 5 years of building this charter school. So
that's
it
right.
Sounds like you had a really important position.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, I was the CEO of this nonprofit. We really built it. I think when I left, we had a $5.5 million budget, 530 kids. We had like 30 full-time staff members. And I got all kinds of like awards and stuff for being a community leader. But I think the best part of it was when I would drive. I mean, Baton Rouge is a pretty poor city in America. It's kind of on that poverty line. When I would drive past a regular public school, and then I would go into our school, just seeing the total difference. There was a difference in the way that we thought about kids. My school was really about every kid can learn. Every kid has a future. It doesn't matter where you come from. Where you come from isn't going to change where you could go as long as you have the right education, the right mentorship. And I just saw a public school system that was giving up on kids. They were doing just enough to keep it legal, but not more. And so we were all about doing anything you can. And it was hard, right? It was hard hiring teachers who believe that philosophy. It was hard recruiting volunteers. It was hard just keeping the students. I mean, some of the students had a really violent background. We dealt with a lot of really hard issues at the school. I mean, I literally put a fire out. Like one day I'm sitting in my office on the first floor dealing with a parent issue or something.
Yeah.
And a kid comes running down and they call me Dr. D, and they're like, Dr. D, the school's on fire. I was like, okay, what? So I get up, I'm like wearing a suit, right? I get up, I run to the second floor. So I could run up the stairs to the second floor. And sure enough, some kids were smoking in the bathroom, and somehow the paper towel rack had caught on fire, and the whole side of the wall inside the bathroom was on fire. I grabbed the fire extinguisher, busted the door, pull out the pin, just, shot all the fire extinguisher foam, put the fire out. And the one thing I said to the security officer is, I don't want to expel those two students, because he was like done, right? He was like, those two kids that set the school on fire, they're out. But I knew the cycle of poverty and the cycle, the recidivism of just, what if they went to one of them had already served some time? Like, what's the point in just sending them back? And that's what we tried to do. But yeah, it was I had highs and lows for sure as being part of the founding of that school.
So what made you leave, man? Right? It sounds like you loved it.
Yeah. I'm a give it all you got kind of person. And so, my freshman year in college, I was in a life-changing car accident. I went to college in Canada where it's like ice and snow all the time.
Yeah.
And so it was a early morning, driving in the car and going to an event, and there was an icy road. And as a result of the black ice, I was hit in the car, pinned in the car, and I broke my hip and my pelvis because we got hit highway speed by another car in 26 places. And I had 3 doctors tell me I would never walk again. And since then I did a half marathon 2 weeks ago. I've done, I think 7 events, marathons or triathlons. And so I hate when somebody tells me what I can't do, because I want to prove them wrong. But I also know that, like, as an example of a marathon, 26.2 miles, when the marathon's over, you don't run another mile, right? You run the marathon. You run the race that's in front of you, but you don't run beyond the race. So you finish your assignment. And so I knew for me that my assignment in Louisiana was starting the school and getting it to sustainability, because the first 2 years of the school, the local school district gave us an F grade. Like they didn't like us. Our kids weren't performing, or it was hard to hire good teachers. And so they saw us as a failure. I mean, I got in a screaming match with the superintendent of schools who wanted to shut our school down. And so I gave my left leg to that school, and once the school was at a point of sustainability, I remember walking through the building the 5th year of the school, and the 4th year of the school, but my 5th year, because it took a year to get off the ground. I walked through the building and I realized I have nothing to do. Like, no one needs my ninja assassin entrepreneur mind. They just need sustainability. They need sustained growth, not exponential growth. And so I think it's important as entrepreneurs for us to understand when we're assignment is done, it doesn't do a service to anyone to stay. What we need to do is we need to find faithful men, faithful women, faithful leaders that we can pass the assignment on, train them, support them, but then set them free to be successful. And then we move on to the next challenge. And that's kind of how I see my life, kind of in 4 to 6 year challenges, because I've got probably another 10 challenges in front of me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help anybody if I'm still working on a challenge that I started 12 years ago. So I've got to move on.
Man, that really resonated with me. So like in every single interview, I'm doing this for me selfishly, right?
I love it.
You gotta be selfish in order to be selfless. So I'm doing this for me. And in every interview, I look for an insight. There you go. Like this is it.
That's right.
So I started this business that we were talking about, my business, 2 months ago. And I'm already on track to hit $1 million per year by the end of this year.
Love it.
And like, I really like this sustainability. I'm gonna make sustainability my race, right?
Yep.
And then put the right people in place that I gotta put that I gotta put in order for it to like sustain itself. But like my thing is helping men become modern gentlemen. Right?
Yeah.
That's my next race. So I'm gonna, like take this business to sustainability, which is going to happen pretty fast. And then go on my next race. So yeah, I really like
That's
that.
good.
So, you've talked about this entrepreneurial spirit right now. You called it
Right.
ninja, ninja assassin.
Ninja assassin. Yes, that's what we have to be.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you've talked about this, right? A couple of
Yeah.
times you've mentioned it. So do you feel like you are an entrepreneur? So like, do you think entrepreneurs are born or they're made?
That's a really good question. I think it's a combination of both.
Okay.
I think that we're born a certain way. Like we have 3 kids. Okay. So we have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And my wife and I were literally talking about this morning because I was joking with my daughter. I said, my daughter is like 50% me and 50% my wife, her mom. And we were talking about the other kids, and so my middle daughter, 50-50. My oldest son is like 70% my wife, Julie, and 30% me. And my youngest is like 90% me and 10% my wife. And so I think we're born with a certain nature, with certain proclivities to certain personality types, et cetera. But I also think that so much of our drive and our hunger really comes from trauma. It comes from something that we experience, but often it's not the good things, it's the gaps, right? There's a great Dan Sullivan book, and Ben Hardy wrote a book called The Gap and the Gain. And I think that there's always this idea of like, yes, we're going to have people in our life that are encouraging us and motivating us and everything. But what we often look at is what don't we have, or what was the one thing that somebody said to us when we were a little kid that's still stuck with us. Like I remember when I was in 4th grade, we were moving to Canada. I was living outside of New York City, and finally, the coolest kid in my class agreed to come to my house and hang out with me. And I just thought, finally, I'm like best friends with this kid. Well, it turned out he was just being nice to me, probably because his mom made him, probably because I was moving away. And he put in his time. He came over to my house and he like looked at I was like into Lego. He like looked at my Lego, but he was like into MTV and all kinds of like, celebrity culture and stuff like that. And so I remember he was there for like 30 minutes. Like I thought we were going to play Lego and all this kind of stuff. And he just started cursing. He sat on my front porch and he said, "Where the F is my sister? Where the F is my sister?" I'd never heard a curse word before because I like grew up in the church,
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't understand, why is he so mad? And it wasn't only, Alex, it was probably 10 years later that I realized the reason he was so mad his sister was like, because he didn't like me. He didn't want to hang out with me. He thought I was a nerd, right? He thought I wasn't cool. And so I've always had this chip on my shoulder that because I'm a Christian kid, because my dad was a preacher and a pastor, like I can't be in the cool club or something. And it drives me, man. Like it just drives me to be successful. And so I think we can take our failure or our shame and turn it into fuel in a healthy way, not in a destructive way that we knock people over, but in a healthy way that we help people out. And so I think entrepreneurs are somewhat born, but often what entrepreneurship does is it helps us close a gap that we feel in our life. So is it a notoriety gap? Is it a feeling of wanting to be important? Maybe for a lot of people, I think it is. I think for others, it's a financial money mindset gap where it's, for example, several of my friends who are entrepreneurs, their dad lost his job when they were kids. And so they remember what was it like for dad to get fired, and they grew up with that trauma and saying, I'm never going to be at a point where I'm depending on one job because I never want to be fired. And so they're so driven to never be fired, So I think that entrepreneurship really is the best personal development program available.
It is, right? Like developing yourself and constantly growing and evolving and compounding and changing and getting better and improving is a requirement for entrepreneurship, right? So yeah, I agree with you. And you know what, man? Yeah. Like I'm also driven by trauma, right? Like I just told you what drives me. Yeah. And it's like trauma, right?
I love it.
That's literally what drives me.
I think this is probably the most controversial thing I'll say in this interview, but I really actually think that trauma can be a tool for success. And we're in this culture of kind of self-help and therapy right now where people are are going back to something hard that happened to them, and they're sort of laying in it, just like sitting in it, and not using it as a way to propel them forward, but instead they're sort of like letting it knock them out. And I think we always have a choice, right? Like one of my friends growing up, he was 4 years old, I think, when he was in a car with his parents. They were going through a toll, a toll place, like on the highway where you had to pay a toll. And there was a gas tanker truck that the guy wasn't paying attention, slammed into them. The truck exploded. His car caught on fire and he was severely burned. I mean, he looks like an alien. It burned off his eyes and his ears and everything. And he's a professional speaker now. Like, he has major trauma, and instead of sitting on his couch all day, binging shows and being mad about life, he has a family, he's a successful entrepreneur, and he speaks for a living about mindset. And so I think we all have an opportunity to decide, are we going to let the trauma knock us out, or are we going to let it fuel us to go help more people?
Damn. Yeah. We all, like, people have this decision, that choice.
That's right.
So who do you think? So, like, what do you think is the determining factor in the people that choose to, like, be depressed and, like, just watch their life go past, pass by them and be depressed and smoke and drink and just be mad at life? What do you think is the determining factor in between the people who choose to go that way or who choose to use this trauma as fuel for their fire?
Yeah. I think it has to go beyond self. I think we need something greater than ourselves to live for, because if we get everything we want in life, but we're still alone, it never satisfies, right? So I'm a person of faith. So I really believe that each one of us have this longing for something more, and that longing for something more will not be fulfilled on earth. I believe that it will be fulfilled in heaven. So that's my own personal belief, but I think that's why we're so driven, because we long for something that's never possible on the earth. But that being said, at a lesser extent, we can be driven because of family legacy. Like, there's an old proverb that says, a righteous man provides an inheritance to his children's children. So I am fueled right now. Like, I'm fueled to fund the life of my children's children, so my grandkids. So not only do I need to make enough money to pay my bills and my wife's bills, but my kids and their children, which I've done the math, my friend. I've done the math. It's $4.7 million. Okay. So do I currently have $4.7 million in my investment and savings accounts? I do not. I'm not there yet. And so I wake up every day going, I have a debt to pay. I believe the future is a debt. I have a debt to pay in order for me to be a righteous man who provides for my children's children. And so I think we need to have a bigger picture than just today. We need to have a multi-generational legacy picture. And I think that's what will change our mindset. That's what will change our habits. So, like, that's why I work out every day. That's why I wake up before 5 every day. Like, that's why I don't drink alcohol. Like I do certain things because I'm thinking about my kids. I'm not thinking about today. And I think if we think about today, we're going to make short-term decisions. If we think long-term, we're going to make better long-term decisions.
Sorry for the interruption. If you're an aspiring, established coach, course creator, author, and speaker, I want to extend an invitation to check out my free training on the podcast Cloak Track framework by clicking on the link in the description of this podcast. On this training, you're going to learn how combining podcasting with a rare concept that very few people know about called the Cloak Track can help you build a multi-million-dollar network of successful people who can become your clients, put you in front of hundreds of your ideal clients with your message, coaching, courses, and books, help you become a best-selling author, get you booked to speak on stages, or even making an extra $237,600 in the next 6 months. Click on the link of the description of this podcast to learn about the 4 simple steps to make this work. Step number 1 is alignment. Aligning who you're trying to be, what you're trying to do, your goals and purpose with building your podcast so that podcasting is a vehicle that helps you achieve your goals. Step number 2 is leveraging the Cloak Track to find an unlimited supply of your ideal podcast guest. Step number 3 is leveraging the Cloak Track to close an interview with anyone, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem. And step number 4 is the content machine, which is the key to tapping into other people's audiences. These are the 4 steps to making the podcast cloak track framework work, and I'm not going to hold anything back on this training. So click on the link in the description of this podcast, go and check it out. And once you've done that, if you feel like this would help, we also have a complimentary, free, absolutely free alignment call to get you started and show you exactly how to implement everything. Get access to the training right now, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye. That was powerful, man. Like I've heard, other entrepreneurs talk about like knowing your number, like knowing what is the amount of like the number of money, the amount of money that you need to live a comfortable life. And then from there, you can do whatever you want. Right. And I haven't taken the time to get clear on that number, right?
Yeah.
That would give me my ideal lifestyle.
That's right.
But you just inspired me to go, right after this interview, go ahead and get clear on what that number is.
I love it.
And yeah. So did you take into consideration inflation and all of that?
Yeah. All that. Yeah.
Cool.
I did it a few years ago, but it was like, okay, what does it actually cost to live, to raise a family at the standard of living that we want to live, adding in inflation, and then a multiple on that in terms of assuming each of our kids is going to have a certain number of kids, and what does that look like? So yeah, it's a big number, but it also, I think we need a big goal in order to think bigger. And so And what I've found, and you've probably heard other people say this, but there's less competition at the top, right? There's less competition. So recently I took on a client where I'm hosting their podcast, and they had 2 jobs available at the same time. They had like a social media manager job, and then they had the host of the show who has to go live with their face, on the internet every week. The social media manager job had 200 applicants. The show host had 3. Why?
Because no one wants to be in front of the camera.
Nobody wants to be at the top. There's less competition at the top. If you're looking for an opportunity, apply to be the president, right? Apply to be your congressperson. Like,
because most people don't even have the belief to think that they can go for that.
That's right. So, I mean, just think about that. Like, in your local area, if you were to apply to be like, whatever, work hourly at like a restaurant, it's probably 500 people applying for that job. But if you were to run for Congress in your local area, you might be one of 5. You have a 100 to 1 better chance of being in elected office than getting a job at the hamburger place, And the same is true about organizations, right? There's less competition at the top. It's true. There's less competition when you're going after the prettiest girl. There's less competition when you want the nicest car. There's less competition when you want the best house, whatever your thing is. And so I would just say, like, why not level up? If all you have is this life right now, why not do the hardest thing possible? First of all, it's a lot more rewarding, a lot more fun. But second of all, like, there's something about the challenge of you going for it. You're going to level up your peer group. You're going to become a better person by having higher goals.
Yeah, that was really awesome. I love that message, man. Awesome. So, all right. So then entrepreneurs, it's a mixture of they're made and they're born.
Yep.
All right. We talked about trauma, thinking big. So you're a teacher. Your wife's a teacher. You've always been a teacher.
And you're
a teacher right now, right?
Sure. Yeah. Still a teacher.
So then what do you think about, like educating? You have kids. So what do you think about education and like sending your kids to school? What's your opinion on that? I'm just curious because, I like school. I was really good at school without trying, but I don't see the benefit of school anymore. And
that's right.
And like with my daughter, I wanna for her, like what I want for her is for her to, I don't know, go to a special superhero school or something in which they find their uniqueness, her like unique talent, her ability, her superpower.
That's
and then
right.
They focus on exploiting that for the next decade or so. And then by the time she's 12, she's like world-class at something.
Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome? I love that. I'm looking for the quote. I think it was Andrew Carnegie who said something super controversial about school. And I can't find it right now, but it might have been him or it might have been somebody around his generation. But essentially the idea was the public school system didn't exist, right? The public school system did not exist for a long time in America until they created factories. And what did they need in factories? They needed workers because they didn't have robotics yet. right? They needed workers. They needed people who could listen to directions, who could stand in line, who could show up on time, who could do what they're told and not complain. And so what have we created in school? We've created people who know how to stand in line, follow directions, do the job, and not complain. Is that what our society needs? I don't think so. Not anymore. Our society doesn't need factory workers anymore. Our society needs innovators. It needs people who are coming up with new solutions to new problems. So I believe that in the future of entrepreneurship, I think that we need to raise entrepreneurial kids. So my kids have a side business called Kid Business Club, and they teach kids how to start a business. My 10-year-old started a membership site that he sold. And it was really cool. It was a cool experience, but it wasn't a one-time thing. It was this is who we are. Entrepreneurs look for problems that are not their own. They take ownership of those problems. They create a solution at a profit. And I think that's what we need to do in education, is we need to really consider what is the product that this school is creating. So I've recently, as an educator, I've recently come out and said, I don't believe in public education anymore. I think there are good people that are trying to do the best that they can, right? So I'm not throwing I love our teachers and our school leaders, but I just think the system is so broken, because what we're doing is we're training kids to memorize something that they can quickly Google with their voice. That's illogical. It doesn't make any sense. The brain is a great place for having ideas, but not for keeping ideas. So we need to teach kids critical thinking, problem solving, technology integration, and innovation. Our school system is so antiquated that I don't think it can innovate from inside. So I believe in charter schools. I believe in homeschooling. I believe in private education. If it has an innovative mindset, I just really think that the public school system is not serving our kids very well. And so something has to change. But unfortunately, the investment that we've made, it's like turning around the Titanic. Like, the investment that we've made in public education is so huge. And there's so many people that their livelihood depends on keeping the system the way it is, that it's going to be a very hard Band-Aid to pull off, right? It's going to hurt. So we took our kids out of public school. We have them in a private school that is a little bit more entrepreneurial focused. The charter school that I started was a lot more entrepreneurial focused. I think college is probably the next thing to go. I think college is completely broken. And so college is going to change probably first. And I think the next 15 to 20 years, it's not going to be 1 year. But I think in 20 years from now, in like 2050, the idea of you go to high school, you go K-12, and then you go for 4 years. Like, I just think we're going to look at that and go, I can't believe we used to do that. Like, it's going to sound so crazy.
Well, that was great, man. Thank you very much for sharing that perspective with me. So then how are you implementing? Where are you sending your kids to school? Private school, you said?
Yeah, we sent them to a Christian school, and we're a Christian family. And so one of the things that's the most important to us is their character development. Yeah. And so I think school is a great opportunity for teaching character. However, in order to teach character, you have to have a clear view of what good character is. And unfortunately, in the public school system, and there's so much evidence of this now, the public school system has no moral compass anymore. So they don't know what right and wrong is. In fact, they literally would not use the word right and wrong. They don't have a disciplinary structure. They don't have clear leadership principles. They don't teach morals or ethics, let alone anything religious. I'm not even talking about religious. I'm just talking about good citizenship and good character. And so I think that the schools have lost their moral compass. And as a result, I just don't believe in public education anymore. I think that there are really good people trying to make a difference, but they're trying to save a sinking ship. So what's the best thing I can do as a dad? Number one is I have to take ownership and leadership of my own family. And so, yeah, we pay a lot of money to send our kids to a private school. What have I done? I have invested time as a dad. I lead a men's prayer group every single Friday morning with other dads at that school. I built a personal relationship with the head of the school, with the kids' principals. My wife just took a job at that school because she wants to be at the school. So I think it's important for us as dads to be intimately involved in the education of our kids. So if you have your kid at a public school, which is fine, you've got to be on campus. Like they need to know your name. You need to be there so frequently that they don't even check your ID as you come in. Like you need to be an active presence on campus, because your kids need to see you there. You need to understand what your kids are learning. I think that's so important. So as dads, we have such an opportunity because education is mostly female dominated. And listen, I love women. I'm married to one. Like women are amazing, but kids need both, right? Kids need the drive and the hunger of masculinity and the care and compassion of femininity, and they need a blend of both of those. And so that's why I think dads, it's so important that we're involved in our kids' education.
Cool. I like that. Great insights, man. So what I want to ask about, I wanted to keep on talking about education. And what I want to ask is about your book club. I think you have, right?
Yeah. So fun.
Yeah. It's really cool. Like I went to that website and like the books that you recommend there, man, are absolutely life-changing. I read a couple of them and
awesome.
I'm like I've read this one, and they've been life-changing. And I'm like, and then I started, looking at the other ones and I'm like, I already have them on my Amazon cart. So I'm about to order them. So, so like, tell me about that, about your book club.
Well, I think that when we get the entrepreneurial bug and we are excited about learning and excited about personal development, what can happen because of the access we have. I mean, just think about it. We have TikTok and we have Instagram and we have YouTube and we have podcasts and we have books, Kindle books, like bookstores. Like there's too much content now. There's way too much content, which is kind of awesome that we have access to all the world's content at literally our voice, not even our fingertips, but at our voice. We can just say a word and it'll show it to us. It's like having a genie in a bottle. It's crazy, right? Yeah. It's amazing. But the problem with that is there's too much. So what we need to do instead is have some curation. We have information, but we don't have curation. We need somebody to help us figure out what is going to help me right now. And so that's the idea behind the Business Builder Book Club. I've got it on my website, briandixon.com. It's $1 a day. It's not about the money at all. It's about the curation. And so essentially we read one book every 2 weeks, so 2 books a month. And mostly it's on helping people start businesses. So we have monthly themes. So this month's theme is on marketing. So we're talking about, I think the book that we're discussing tomorrow is Growth Hacker Marketing by Ryan Holiday. Every month we have a different theme. And it's all about helping people start and grow their business. It's been a lot of fun. Basically, you read the book on your own, and then we meet every 2 weeks and we have an hour-long discussion about the book, and we hear other people's insights. And that's been probably the best part of it is connecting with other people that are part of the book club.
Cool. I really like the idea of curating things.
Yeah,
right? Because I've read a bunch of books that I didn't even implement. Right.
That's right.
So I really like the idea of curating and then just like reading what works. And you've gone through that process. You know what works, and now you're giving it to entrepreneurs. So that's amazing. And then inside of that website or whatever, funnel or whatever, you can also get a like as a bonus, you can get a free copy of your book, which is called Start With Your People. So I want you to tell me a little bit about that. But then you can also get 2 more things, which is a customer clarity course, which is like amazing because one of the biggest obstacles I see, coaches, course creators, authors, speakers have is not knowing who their customer is, who their ideal client avatar is. So I think you have that bonus for free. And the proximity principle, I think it's something else, right? Yeah. So tell me about your book and all those 2 bonuses.
Yeah, my most recent book is called Start With Your People, and essentially it's for entrepreneurs, because I think as entrepreneurs, what happens is we get really excited about the money. We get excited about crushing our goals and achieving and hitting the 2 comma club or making $1 million or making $10 million. Like it's all about the numbers and the projects. And what sometimes happens is we're so driven that we drive people over. We're so focused on the projects that we forget about the people. And I'm the guiltiest of all in that world. I was working with a business coach, and I was actually interviewing him for a membership site that I was part of. And right at the end of our interview, he said, if you really want to take your life and business to the next level, do a 360 assessment. And I never even heard of this 360. It's basically a circle, right? It's imagine people in your life in a circle standing around you, telling you what they really see, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I listened to his advice and I sent out a survey, like a Google form. What's awesome about Brian? What's Brian's biggest blind spot? And if you could tell Brian anything, what would you tell him? And I kept it anonymous. I don't even know who took it. And I had 54 people fill in that survey, 54. And here's the thing, Alex, I sent it to former clients. I sent it to an old boss who I thought doesn't like me anymore. I sent it to good friends. I sent it to people who aren't like, we had a falling out or whatever. So I really tried to get like a good group of different people that know me, the good stuff and the bad stuff. And then with a coach, I think it's important to have a coach that can help you process stuff like that. So with a coach, we walked through it and we just looked at it. And the biggest theme that came away from that is Brian puts projects over people. And so I needed to go clean up some relationships. It's never too late to clean up a relationship. Even right now, it's never too late. Even if the person died, it's never too late to clean up the relationship. You could write them a letter forgiving them. You could write a letter apologizing to them and put on their gravestone. Like there's something you can do even now if the relationship's broken. And I think as entrepreneurs, we're like, that what they say, to make an omelet, you have to break eggs. Like we run over relationships all day long. And it's important for us to fix it up, right? To fix those relationships. And so that's what the book is about. It's basically how do you navigate the relationship aspect of business? So there's a section on work, there's a section on your life, and there's a section on home. It's real practical, helping people with their relationships.
Nice. Start with your people.
Start with your people.
It's really cool because the past, couple of episodes, man, like this podcast is like, it gives me what I need.
Yeah, I love it.
Right. So like this past couple of episodes, have been helping me realize that like life and business are all about people. Right.
Yeah.
So my past guests talked about how if you want to build your business, build your people. Right. Yeah. And then by focusing on building your people, they will build your business.
That's right.
That's really cool. Right.
Yeah.
And then
so true.
You come and, basically the same thing, same message, different messenger. So, that's really cool. So, man, tell me about your podcast, Sister Grow Your Podcast.
Yeah. Sister Grow Your Business. Yeah. It's
your business.
What I've found is that there's especially in like the faith-based space is there's not a lot of training for women, especially like mom entrepreneurs, to help them grow their business. There's a lot of like soul care and family kind of stuff, but there's not like the drive and the hustle that we have in our world, like our 10X world, we got a lot of that stuff. And so the idea was I just wanted to talk to some of the smartest, incredible female entrepreneurs that are mostly faith-based. So faith-based female entrepreneurs, and just ask them about their success. Like, tell me your secrets. And so that's been a really fun show to be part of, having really interesting conversations. And they're just saying, this is what worked for me. And I have found that there's a difference between a single guy trying to crush his business and trying to grow his business, and like a mom who is like trying to navigate all the challenges of motherhood while growing a business. And so it's been really, really fun to be part of that. Yeah. We've got, 20, 30 episodes available, and I'll check that all out at my website.
Cool. I love that. So I have 5 questions for you, man.
Love it.
And we have a couple of minutes, so I think we're going to be good. And the first one is, this is not the first one, but I'm just curious. How old are you, man?
44.
Cool. So the first question is, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self if you could?
Yeah. Man, so much. I'm actually working on my next book. It's called The Book of Life and Death.
All right.
It's real serious. I had 2 friends die this year, and one of them left 4 boys behind. And he's a good dude. He had some health struggles and things like that, but like he left these 4 boys behind. And I just know he wasn't a writer, and there's nothing really written down for these boys. There's no training manual for their life. And I thought, that's what I need. Like I needed that when I was 20. I needed somebody to just tell me like, this is this is how you treat a woman. This is how you get a job. This is how you build a good name. This is what you do with your money. Like some of the basic stuff that I think you and I, because we're personal development guys, like we've learned the hard way, but I wanted some sort of instruction manual. And so that's the idea behind the book. And so that's my headspace right now. Like literally I worked on it for an hour this morning. It's like, what is the advice that I wish I had, maybe not even at 20, but like at 16. Yeah. Right. And so I think probably the one chapter, okay, this will be a little controversial, but the chapter I worked on today is called Cling to Your Woman. And it's all about finding your woman. Like, I believe that you as a guy that there's a wife out there, that there's a woman for life for you in the same way that you're somebody's husband in the future. And so how can you be the kind of man who's ready for when you meet her? How can you show up and serve her well, live with her in an understanding way? And how can you be a husband for life? Because I think that our culture has completely lost the vision of a lifelong marriage. We have throwaway marriages. We have temporary marriages. You look at the fascination, this is going to date the episode, but I think it's still important. Right now, there's a fascination with this Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, fiasco. There's this whole public the court case, and they just hate each other. And he's suing his ex-wife because she said bad things about him. And it's the most popular news story for the last 2 weeks. Like, our culture is terrible at long-term relationships. And so I think if I look back to when I was 20, I think the one thing that I wish somebody said to me is, one day you will meet your wife, and you want to be ready, right? They say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And so the opportunity, one day you'll have the opportunity to meet your wife. You prepare for that day. And the funny thing, Alex, is my wife, Julie, I remember the day I met her. And literally when I met her, I threw up that night because I literally went, I met my wife today and I'm not ready. I was not the man I wanted to be when I met her. And so that's the best advice I could give to a 20-year-old is the woman you're probably with right now is probably not your wife. Like, ask yourself, really, is that your wife? And if it's not, do her a favor, end that relationship, go work on yourself. 5 areas of life: faith, family, finance, fitness, and friendship. Like, go work on those 5 areas of life so that when she shows up, you're filled up, you're ready to go. So she's honored to date you, because right now she's probably not honored to date you. So you got some work to do.
How do you know if you are with your wife?
Man, I probably would lean on my faith, and I think it was just a God thing, but there's probably a couple criteria. I mean, number one is marriage. Marriage is a really serious thing, right? Marriage is about outserving each other. It's not about 50-50. It's 100-100. Because the idea of marriage is like, we're not trying to take from each other. We're trying to outgive each other. So I would say, is she the kind of person you would die for? Is she someone that you would want to raise your kids? Is she somebody that you can trust with your heart and your dreams? And if you ask some of those harder questions, because the physical attractiveness, my wife's freaking hot, right? Like, I think she's the most beautiful woman in the world, but she's a 40-year-old woman, right? She's not 21 years old anymore. Okay. So the physical attractiveness thing does change, but what doesn't change is the deep, rich character of an amazing woman. And I would even say of a godly woman. And so I would say you're looking for character. You're looking for what, and she told me this, she said, the day I realized that I love you, I'm going to get emotional thinking about this. She said, the day I realized that I love you, she said, she noticed how I treated somebody who had a mental disability, and the way I treated this person. And I didn't know she was looking. Like, I didn't know she was paying attention. But she said, because you treated him that way, I knew you were a good guy. And so that's what I think we look for, right? Sorry to get emotional, but it's real stuff, right? I think what we look for is, we're not looking for a woman who just tries to look as hot as possible or as sexy as possible. We look for somebody who we can truly do life with. You mentioned 10X, which I'm assuming that's Grant Cardone, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, we're looking for an Elena. We're looking for somebody. Yeah, sure, she's physically attractive, but she's gonna push us to get to the next level. She's going to believe in us. She's going to go to the wall for us, because entrepreneurship, or just work is so hard that we need somebody who can say, go get it. Like, go make 5 more sales calls, like, go be a man. And so I saw that in her really early on. Some of that is her background, but a lot of that's who she chose to be. And we kind of grew up together. I mean, we met when we were in our early 20s. And that's what I would recommend. I mean, you either know or you don't. I think if you really looked in the mirror and you said, the guys watching or listening right now, if you looked in the mirror and you said, is blank, like the person you're with right now, is blank the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, raise my kids, share my dreams with, share my heart with, you already know. And if it's not, it's a kindness to set her free, and go be the man that you know that you're destined to be.
Damn, that's a hard one, right, man? So let's see. Man, well, we already, ahead of time.
Yep.
So right, but I still have 4 more questions.
Yeah, it was good. I got a few minutes. Yeah.
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 Awesome. So the next question is mindset. So what is a mindset shift that you've had that you can share that you think has contributed to your success?
This is a recent one. This one has been really, really hard. Really hard for me, but I finally came around to it, which I think I've heard it very frequently, but I've never applied it to myself, which is they say that when it comes to communication, right? Communication is like, and I can't remember the numbers, but it's like 10% what you say, and then a certain percent of like how you look and your body language and all that.
How you say it.
It's not just what you say, but it's how you say it with your tone, how you say it with the words you choose, how you say it with the timing. And also how you say it with like your body. Like you can say something that is, the same thing. Like, let's take a team member. If you're trying to correct a team member, you can say it in a way that deflates them or empowers them, that shows that you don't trust them or that you believe in them. And this has been a big one for me, especially with, I mostly work with women. We've got a large company. We've got 47 people that work on our team right now. And I'm one of 3 guys. And so the way that I say something and the way it's heard are different. And so here's the mindset shift. I have to trust what they heard and trust less what I said. And so if what I said and what they heard is different, that's my fault. I have to take full responsibility for the way people hear what I say. And so I have to get better. And this has been the work. I've had to get better at the way I communicate so that they hear my heart, so they hear my compassion, even though I'm passionate. Because I think sometimes as passionate guys, we can sound like bullies because we're so freaking passionate, right? We're like hustle and drive. But it sounds like we're a jerk, and we're not a jerk. Like, we're not trying to be mean. We're trying to drive ourselves. But sometimes by driving ourselves, we drive over other people. And so what I've learned to do is I always start the conversation with, I want you to know, I think you're awesome. And I'm so honored you're on our team. Like, I'm so glad to work with you. You have a job, you're on the team. I'm on your team. And I'll use the person's name, right? I'm on Team Julie. Like, you're amazing. There's one thing I'd love you to fix or change, and it might be a little hard, but I want you to know that I'm sticking with you. I'm on your team before this call. I'm on your team during this call, and I'm on your team after this call. And what I found is that gives, and you can use this with your wife too, or with your girlfriend. You can say, listen, I want to have a hard conversation, but before we have that, I want you to know I love you right now. I'm going to love you during this whole call. Or this conversation. I'm going to love you during this conversation. And after the conversation, I'm still going to love you. Like, I'm not going anywhere, but I have something I have to say. And then you say it, and then you work through it. And then I've learned, so number one is like the disclaimer. Let them know that you're on their team. And then number 2 is, if they react in a negative way, to let them get it, like, let them say it, because there might be something you need to hear. So I've been trying to open myself up more to the feedback of other people without defending myself. Like, literally not even saying a word about why I might be right or why they might have misinterpreted. I just want to hear what they're saying, and what I say, instead of explaining my position, is just say, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Cool. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
It's hard, dude.
I'm gonna implement it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Map, do you have any advice for people who may lack or need clarity?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, that's what I do. I do one-on-one business coaching, and I call myself a clarity coach because I think it's so important for you to have a clear vision of where you want to go, right? The old axiom of if you don't know where you want to go, any road will get you there. Right. So what I love to do, there's two exercises I do. The first one is I ask my clients, tell me about your life in 1 year from now. So I'll look at the date and I'll say, okay, 1 year from now. And then I'll go through one of the five F's that I've mentioned already, right? Faith, family, finance, fitness, and friendship. So it's like, tell me about your money in a year from now. Tell me about your work in a year from now. Tell me about your friendships in a year from now. Right. And they know where they want to go. And a year feels like a long time. And so it feels like they're free to dream about it. If I said next week, they'd feel deflated. But if I say a year, they feel excited. So that's one thing. It's like, where do you want to be a year from now? And then the other one is, man, this is going to say you, Alexandra, like, it's going to choke you up, my friend. I want to be the guy that walks my daughter down the aisle. And that's up to me, because I can screw up that relationship. I can screw up the relationship with her mom, and her mom could marry someone else, because my daughter's only 9. So think about that, in whatever, 11 years, however long until she's married. If I screw up my marriage, I might not be the guy to walk her down the aisle. Or if I screw up my relationship, if I screw up the relationship with my daughter, she might not want me to walk her down the aisle. And so that's the kind of guy I want to be. So I think if you're lacking clarity, ask yourself, who is it I want to be a year from now? And who do I want to be on the night of my daughter's wedding, when I paid for the whole thing, right? And I'm doing the toast. I know who that guy is. It's so obvious, right? I'm like, I know what he drives. I know how much money he makes. I know what his network looks like. Like, that guy is clear. But the guy I want to be in a week from now is a little hard. So let's start with the guy who's 55, 60 years old, and then go, now that guy, 60-year-old Brian, he's looking back at 44-year-old Brian, and he's asking one question: did you make your sales calls, and did you do your push-ups? That's it, And so do your freaking push-ups and your sales calls, because you got a wedding to get ready for, So that's what I'd say if you're lacking clarity.
Cool. I love that one, man. Mindset Map, motion. So what is one habit that you have right now that you think is contributing to your success?
Yeah, every single morning, my 12-year-old and I mean, I'm up earlier than him, but he wakes up at 5:45. We go downstairs in the basement, and we do a workout together. And we've got a calendar, a whiteboard calendar, but we're using Sharpie markers, permanent markers. We track our workout every single day. And we're filming this in end of May. So every single square, January 1st, all the way through now, month 5, we have the data of the workout that we have.
With a Sharpie marker. That's
Sharpie,
cool.
can't erase it. Yep, can't erase it. And so, and we finished a big goal. Day 100, we did a 100-day challenge to kick off the year. And so day 101 was blank. Day 102 was blank. Day 103 was blank. We got 3 days of blank, and we're like, we're not doing blank anymore. And so we started it again. And so there's something about tracking your progress that can make a big difference. So whatever your thing is, like, write it down permanently somewhere that you can't erase, because that's the evidence of a life well lived.
Nice. I love it, man.
Yeah.
And the last question is measure. What do you think about measuring and tracking? You just told us, right?
Yeah, I think that's really important. In each area of life, there's a way to measure. And so, I'm doing the 75 hard program. It's my 3rd time doing it. And he has you measure stuff. He has you stay on a scale every day, read 10 pages of a book, drink a gallon of water, sleep. I track my sleep. I track my water intake. I track my workouts. I think it's really important to do that. There's a great book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And the basic idea is, like, you're this guy starting out, and you're either going to get better or you're going to get worse.
Yeah.
And it's just by what you track. And so I think it's so important just to track all of those things. I'm such a driven, kind of addictive personality that I know there's certain things I just can't even have in front of me. So no amount of tracking, like if my refrigerator is full of IPAs right now of beer, like, I'd probably have one in my hand at 2:00 in the afternoon because it's delicious. And I'm an addict when it comes to things
Everything.
that taste good, you know, not even alcohol, just things that I like. And so I have to make the decision before I go to the grocery store, not at my refrigerator. So I think what I want to do is, when it comes to measuring, I want to measure my actions, but I also want to eliminate things that don't help me make progress. So cancel your subscriptions, unplug your TV, you know, throw food away, like get rid of some relationships, do the things you have to do right now so that you can build the life that you want to have.
Awesome. I love it, man. So, man, I love everything that you shared. Thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom and being so real and open.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So if, you know, people want to know more about you, the book club, your website, you know, if people want to get started with webinars to sell more books, courses, and products and all of that, where can they find you? Where would be the best place for them to get a hold of you?
You know, I found when I do interviews, most people use Instagram. And so I think find me on Instagram. I'm just Brian J. Dixon on Instagram. Send me a message. Just send me a voice message and just say, hey, I heard you on Alex's show. That would mean a lot to me. If you want to share a takeaway, I'd love to hear that. You know, I want to make my life's not my own. It's not about me. So if there's a question you have, I'd love to hear your question so I can help you make progress.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. So we'll send, you know, we'll put all of that information, your Instagram and all of that, wherever this appears. And thank you very much, Brian. I really enjoyed this episode. Thank you again. And I'll see you later.
Thanks, Alex. Great job.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms